Dirty shoes. Do not bring home the Mudmen. That's what my uncle said to me when I went camping in the woods behind his farm. I asked him for more information, but he shook his head. It's a tradition. It's just a thing people around here used to say in the old days. He smiled at me, even though his eyes looked rather sad. I said goodbye and started walking. Ever since my sister died, I have not been the same. My mother had sent me camping in these woods to defeat the numbness. A bit of fresh air will do you good. One night alone in the woods, that's all you need. I remembered her words when it started raining. Only 1 hour into my camping trip, part of me wanted to return to the farm, but my body kept walking. I have to admit that it felt good to be outside. While the rain fell, my thoughts kept going back to the funeral. It had also rained then. It was hard actually to remember a single thing about that day. All the speeches and the faces and the condolences blurred together in my head. The only moment that I did remember was after the funeral when everyone had gone home, and I lingered for a while at my sister's grave. I joked around like we used to do, but with no response, all the while crying like a child. Joking to my sister's grave did make me feel better, though it did not stop the numbness. The afternoon passed while I thought about my sister and my future. Every couple of hours the rain stopped, only to begin again a few minutes later. The earth made squishy sounds while I trudged my way towards a good camping spot. Sometimes one of my boots got stuck in the dirt, but it didn't bother me. My sister and me, we used to go on adventures in the small woods near our school. A world of imagination and freedom awaited us there between the trees. My current trip made me reminisce about our adventures. With my shoes in the wet soil, I felt like an adventurer myself, a lonely hero on his way towards an epic quest. I smiled while the rain kept falling. By nightfall, I had secured a cozy camping spot on the hill, high and dry from the ever-present rain. I ate the sandwiches my uncle made for me and fell asleep to the faint beginnings of a thunderstorm in the distance. I broke up my tent and returned to the farm. I felt much better, to be honest. It had finally stopped raining, and the sun guided me during my walk back. I had some time for myself, time to think about my sister but also about me. I'd finally started thinking about my future, made some plans and jotted some things down in my journal. So it was with great enthusiasm that I returned to the world of the living. Even though the rain had stopped, the mud was still there. It was impossible to traverse the woods without getting dirty, but I didn't care. I felt happy, and a little mud had never killed anyone, right? When I came back, my uncle wasn't there. He had left a note that he had gone to a friend's house and that he wouldn't return until that evening. Because my shoes were already dirty, I decided to help my uncle out and do a bit of work on the farm. I cleaned up the stables, fed the pigs, and reorganized his storage. When I was ready, I left my muddy shoes outside. I woke up to the sound of a scream. Sleep still had me in its thrall when I came downstairs. A second scream shook me from my slumber, and I raced outside towards the sound. It came from the stable. I crossed the courtyard and saw a dirty footprint everywhere, all ominous looking in the moonlight. I threw open the stable's door, but I saw it was already too late. I want you to imagine my uncle. He's in his 40s, short brownish hair, modest beard, big friendly eyebrows. Now imagine him again, but with mud and dirty black water coming out of his eyes, ears, nose and mouth. His scream had turned into a desperate gurgle when I saw him. He sat upon his knees surrounded by 3 humanoid figures entirely covered in mud. At second glance, they weren't covered in it. They were mud. Their whole body was mud. These figures stared at me, or I thought they did. They had no faces, but their heads turned towards me. My uncle tried to gurgle a warning or something that he had wasted his last breaths. As he fell in a puddle of saliva and dirt, I ran away as fast as I could. I heard the wet squelching steps of my pursuers, reminding me of my return to the farm while it rained earlier that day. I ran inside, shoved the closet against the door, and started thinking about an escape plan. Meanwhile, it had started to rain again. My initial plan was to escape through the front door, but what to do after that? Where to go? I searched for the keys to my uncle's pickup truck but found nothing. Shit, he probably had the keys on him, which meant I had to get all the way back to the stable and face the Mudmen. I picked up a big knife from the kitchen and decided to risk it. On foot in the rain with mud everywhere, I probably won't last long, especially when my pursuers were made out of the same dirt I was walking upon. The steady rhythm of rainfall synchronized with the beating of my heart as I went outside. When I put on my shoes, I noticed they were clean, as if I never even had been camping. While adrenaline raged and all my rational thinking was being crushed by raw fear, I darted towards the stable. On my way, I sank halfway into a deep puddle, and when I reached the doors, I had become some of a mudman myself. All my muscles strained, and my brain was going in survival mode as I opened the door. I was ready to stab these mudmen, to avenge my uncle, and I saw no one. The stable was empty. No mudman, but also not a trace of my uncle. I decided to return back to the house, and that was the moment I found out where all the mudmen had been. They had been gathering reinforcements. Outside the stable stood 8 mudmen. Their slick, featureless heads looked at me. It was difficult to say where their legs ended or where the ground started. One of them seemed new. The mud was not as thick as with the others, and pieces of farm overall were visible. It was my uncle. Before I had any time to process this, the fuckers began to make their way towards me. I quickly decided to abandon my hope of a pickup truck and to go with my plan B. I ran away as fast as I could. They followed me slowly but surely. Mud was everywhere as I sprinted through the woods. Water, dirt and tree branches clung to me as I tried to shake off the mudmen. They moved like boneless masses, ever merging with the ground upon which they persuaded me. I don't know how far or fast I ran. I passed some other farms and wondered whether they could be potential targets of the mudmen. The way my uncle had warned me this morning seemed like folklore but real. Maybe everyone that lived there knew to watch out when walking through mud. After crossing multiple asphalt roads and some hills, I arrived in a small village. I went to the local diner and decided to call my parents to come and pick me up. I have no idea how I will explain any of this to them or to myself. I'm currently waiting for my parents. I decided to post my story here to get my thoughts straight. Has anyone ever heard of these mudmen or encountered them? I wonder if there is any way to stop them. As I write this, grey clouds gather once again, and I just heard a conversation between 2 truckers. According to them, it will keep raining for the next couple of days. Better avoid the woods for a while. Thank you for venturing into the depths of reality narratives. If this journey left you spellbound, hit that subscribe button and leave a spectral thumbs up. Share your musings below. What mysteries beckon you? My other videos await, shrouded in intrigue and suspense. Keep your senses keen, for the veil between worlds grows thin.